Love that song. It's happy and reminds me of Christmas, actually. But I really like that song, Sound of Music. And I picked it today because we're talking about joy and sorrow. You know, in this wonderful, complex world we live in, it's not just one thing, is it? It's always both and. It's always all of it. And wherever the Buddhists tell us that wherever we have joy, we're going to have the same amount of sorrow and vice versa. So I would like to talk about that today because I know that moving into the holiday season, it can be complex. You know, it's pretty exciting to see all the Christmas lights and visit with friends and have special meals and open packages and all that kind of stuff. But we cannot overlook the fact that all of that happiness and light and beauty and color is juxtaposed against some pretty sorrowful stuff in life. Isn't that the truth? It doesn't take much time watching the news to figure out that there's some icky stuff going on out there. And if it's not going on out there, it's probably going on in our own lives, in our own bodies, in our own bank accounts, in our own families, in our own relationships, whatever that might look like, see. So we've got to have the capacity to embrace both, all the beauty and the joy, and at the same time, be with the collective sorrow that is present everywhere on the planet, in our own lives. You know, the traditional definition of joy is a feeling of great pleasure, of happiness. And what I know about that is, right now as we're entering into this season of, you know, joy to the world and all of that stuff, can be a stretch. Can be a stretch. There's a lot of other stuff that gets our attention. Is that true? Yes. It is true. So we know that there's a lot of grief, there's a lot of mourning, there's a lot of hunger, there's famine, there's war, there's fear, there's fire. We're aware of all these political disasters that are going on all over the planet. Doesn't really look like my favorite things. It doesn't look like that. And I like what Llewellyn Vaughan-Lee says. He says, the world in which we live is not a problem to be solved. It's a magical, dynamically changing dance of which we are a part. Does it feel like that? Might not today. Might not feel like that right now. It might not feel like a magical dance, but somewhere within whatever is going on in any arena, it's both and. It is this beauty, this grace, this awe, all of this sort of thing. And it's opposite. It always has an opposite. Now the thing is, we tend to focus on the opposite, don't we? Yeah, we tend to focus on the thing that grabs our heart and hurts. We forget that it's all of it. So the invitation here is to remember, and that's what those lyrics tell us. When the bee bites, when the bee stings and the dog bites, when you're feeling sad, remember that there is the opposite. Remember that the beauty and the grace and the awe and the joy is a possibility within that thing. See, one of our authors that I worked with this week says, remembrance becomes the grace that gets us through things. It helps us rekindle the light of our soul when it seems like there's darkness all around. So it's this capacity to remember, to look for the silver lining, to remember that it isn't all just this doom and gloom stuff. Khalil Gibran says, joy and sorrow are inseparable. Have you noticed how that works? Together they come, and when one sits alone with you, remember, the other one is asleep on your bed. It's all of it. It's all there. And we do have the capacity to embrace both the joy and the sorrow. This has been my story now for quite a while, trying to figure out how do I embrace both the joy of life and the reality of some of the things that don't feel very good, some of the sorrowful stuff. See, how do we do that? I know I'm not the only one. I know that. So today, the invitation is to move beyond that traditional understanding of what joy is supposed to be like, that pleasure, that happy place. Move beyond that into the depth of it, and realize that joy is really life awake. It's really that capacity that is brimming with possibilities, even though the pain is there too, even though the fear is there, even though things are going on the planet that seem difficult for everybody. See, joy is a quality of the soul. When we do our Advent work this next month, we're going to be talking about those divine qualities, those God qualities that we all have within that we can bring forth. Joy is a quality of the soul. And it's our job to remember that so that we can experience life in an alive, awake way, you see. Realize it as an inner experience so it doesn't depend on anything out there. It doesn't depend on our bank account. It doesn't depend on our relationships or lack of relationships. It doesn't depend on who shows up at the Thanksgiving table. It doesn't depend on any of that. It's separate from that. It's that inner quality. You know what I know about trying to find joy in life? Trying to be open to that? It takes a lot of courage. It takes a lot of courage to look beyond the painful, to look beyond the things that hurt, to look beyond the bodies that aren't working as well as we'd like them to work, to look beyond all those things, see, to remember that there is a soul quality of joy and grace that lives within whatever that difficult thing is, whatever that sorrowful thing might be. Because we're all going to experience joy and sorrow within a lifetime, aren't we? Who here has never experienced sorrow? Don't see one hand. Who here has never experienced joy? Don't see one hand for that either. Thing is, we attach more to the sorrowful stuff, don't we? Yeah, we sure do. We sure do. So, to the extent that we remember the truth, we're going to experience that glimmer of joy. Just a flicker. Now, maybe it's not this big exuberant flash of light, but we can find that little flicker of joy, you see. Because what I know about my experience is, if we say that joy is a quality of the soul, that it's a God trait, what I know is that it never shows up the same way twice. It doesn't have to be the same way every time. Over the weekend, our family got the news that we're going to have a new baby. That's joyful. Within the sorrow of the loss of that baby's grandma, now there's going to be a new baby in our family. Both end, you see. 2 great-grandbabies now, not just one. 2. Never shows up the same way more than once, never does. No moment can ever be lived again exactly in the same way. And our invitation is to be spontaneously available to however that shows itself, whatever shows up in that moment. Those fresh eyes, those deep eyes, that wisdom, that inspiration. I love what Einstein says, and that's why I picked this image. I hope you can take it home with you, especially if you have a tendency to have a lot of sorrow and yucky stuff going on in your personal life, or you're really focused on all the icky stuff going on the planet. You know what Einstein said? He said that what separates him from atheists is that atheists cannot hear the music of the spheres. What separates us from having to be totally paralyzed by the sorrowful, grief-filled, mourning-filled, icky stuff of life is our capacity to hear the music of the spheres, to remember the energy and the grace of the divine within all of it, and to see those little glimmers of joy within the experience. We got to start with a willingness to cultivate joy, see? To cultivate the remembrance, to cultivate the idea that it's important to us to bring this quality to our experience, to open to that, to be willing to see it in the moment, in a lived, alive way, see? A state of mind, an orientation. I said to myself, you know what, life sucks, I'm not going to do a Christmas tree this year. I'm not going to do a Christmas tree this year. Life is just too hard. And then I worked on this talk, and so guess what? I think I'm going to do a tree. Now, it's not going to be one of those big trees like I've done in the past. And it's not going to be the 6 trees that I used to do before I turned my house into living space for my family. It's no longer living there. But I am going to do a little Christmas tree to bring that alive orientation of the heart that sees joy in the moment. See? It's almost like being this martyr. Yeah, I'm not going to do Christmas. Too sad. Too much sorrow. No, you know what? I'm going to do a little Christmas tree. I'm going to trust the universe to take care of the details. Yeah, no matter what. And I'm going to have confidence that it's going to be okay, that I'm going to get through it, and that little tree is going to remind me when I forget of the beauty and the grace of this season. Do you hear what I'm saying? Yes. Like what Martin Luther King says. He says, even if I was certain that the earth would end tomorrow, I'd still plant a tree today. I'd still plant a tree today. Full-hearted recognition of the joy of being. And the idea that within that there is this possibility that the earth will end tomorrow. Yes? Yes. Yes. Because joy and sorrow are always on parallel tracks. And we have to have the courage to remember that it's possible to experience both and not focus only on one of those tracks, you see. I know it's certainly right for me that there is this realization that life is not perfect. Is your life perfect? Is everything going just the way you want it to go? Are all the people in your life doing just what you want them to do? Is your body cooperating just the way you want it to cooperate? No, probably not. Got to acknowledge that life doesn't always feel good. It's not, we do have those days that aren't peppy. We have those bad days. We have those days that don't feel so good. It's all of it. It's all of it. But the antidote to that is this willingness to remember that joy is in there somewhere, even if it's just a tiny little glimmer. So I know for myself what dims my joy factor, what starts to smother that little flicker. You see, the joy's always there, I just forget. What smothers that little flicker, what dims that light of joy is fear, cynicism, and pessimism. Anybody feel cynical about anything going on the planet? Anybody pessimistic about anything in your personal life or anywhere? Yeah. I don't even need to ask you if you're afraid of anything. I don't need to ask that question because I know that every single person in this room has something that has their attention and pushes their fear button. I know I'm not the only one. And when we have this stuff that gets in the way and dims our light and starts to smother that little joy flicker, we start awfulizing things. Ain't it awful? Ain't that awful? Ain't that awful? We get very impatient with life. We get very rigid about how it has to. Yep, my Christmas will never be the same again. It's going to be different from now on. It has to look this certain way. Very rigid. Well, you know what? No, it doesn't. It can look different. It could be different. And it could be okay. So how do we cultivate joy? Well, what I know is we just say yes. We say yes to the Christmas tree. We say yes to the invitations that invite us to go out of our field of comfort. We say yes to life on life's terms in the moment. It's the only place we can say yes. Can't say yes later. We say yes right now. Really, we can't make joy happen, but we can create the circumstances, the ideal conditions for joy to take place. Now, I'm hoping that when I do this little Christmas tree, that it fires up my joy. I'm thinking it will. I'm hoping it will. To stretch into this new experience with this new situation, you see. Make room for it. I don't know, I'm hoping it works. Maybe it'll be something else, but I'm going to open to whatever that thing is. See? To open to something new for the first time. Everything in my life is new right now. And you know what? I can tell you something. Everything in all of our lives is new right now because no moment, no day, no experience with anyone or anything is ever going to repeat itself in exactly the same way again. This is it. This is the moment. So if I can see it with beautiful, fresh eyes in the moment and see the joy in that, it's going to make my life feel different. I got to get away from, this is who I am, and move into this full appreciation living, no matter what, no matter how it shows up. And then walk into that dynamic dance, that dance between the joy and the sorrow. The good stuff and the stuff that doesn't feel so good. What's the payoff? Well, I know for a fact and from experience, not recent, because I've been pretty well stuck and focused on that one track of not so much fun. But what I can tell you is when we can balance and we can hold both and, the payoff is that we calm down, we get confident, we get a settled feeling. Hope is inspired. We get hopeful about our life. We have a sense of well-being. There's a warm feeling, a delightful feeling. None of that stuff happens when I'm in fear. None of that stuff happens when I'm pushing away my joy flicker. Now what I know is, this is what I know. I do know that those harsher moments will return. I do know that something will trigger one of those sorrowful moments. I know that. But what I do know is, if I keep at it and I have the courage to stay on the parallel track, remembering that there is joy and sorrow, I'm going to be a whole lot better off. A whole lot better off. See? As long as it lingers there as a possibility, maybe there's some joy here I can find. Maybe I can see this in a new way. How do I do it? Well, here's your invitation. Say yes. Say yes to whatever it is. Say yes to the beauty and the grace and the delight and the warmth and the invitations that take you into those places that are filled with music and dance and the music of the spheres. Say yes to that. Set an intention to live a life of joy and wonder. I've been missing that lately. Set an intention to have full appreciation living, no matter what. Experience life as life as awake and alive. Don't wait for joy to happen. Don't wait around to be joyful. See it, smell it, taste it, touch it. In the moment, what does it look like? What does joy look like for you? I'll tell you, my granddaughter sent me a picture of our first great-grandbaby a couple of days ago. He's 1, and he's a miracle. He's amazing. Of course, she's not feeling real well because she's pregnant with baby number 2. So she's laying on the couch, and she said, Grandma, all of a sudden, I heard the door open, then I heard water running, and then she went in, and she saw this tiny, and he is a tiny 1-year-old, size 4 feet, they're about this big, and he's precious. Saw this tiny little 1-year-old perched on the potty with his little toes curled over to hold on, reaching up, turning on the water with his daddy's electric toothbrush, ready to brush his teeth. In the moment, find the joy in the moment. It doesn't take a lot. It doesn't take a lot to remind you of the aliveness and the beauty and the grace and the possibility of joy. Just remember what Einstein says. You got a choice. Do you really want to hear the music of the spheres? Do you want to remember? Do you want to stay in touch with that God quality within you? Yeah, we're going to return to some of the icky stuff. Don't hear me say that it's all joyful, because it's not. It's both. Remember, your job, like the lyrics of this song say, your job is to remember that when the bee stings and the dog bites, that you can get through with grace and rekindle that place in your soul that remembers it can find joy even within the darkness. But you got to remember that. You have to remember where your favorite things are, whatever that looks like.